Hey, ladies and gentlemen. I tried. We're rocking right now. For those of you who are new to the group, welcome. We are studentloanjustice.org. It is Friday, August 26th. Hope everybody had a good week. Woo, look at that head. I better put a hat on. Hope everybody's doing well out there in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot going on. If you have any questions or comments, throw them out on Facebook or Twitter, and if I can see them, I will respond to them. Where to begin? Biden's student loan cancellation plan that happened last Wednesday. Most of our members are very unimpressed with it. It won't help most of our members by very much at all, even if it performs as advertised. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very concerned about this plan. And first of all, let me say, we're thrilled. We're thrilled that a sitting president called and, in fact, announced that he is going to cancel student loans by executive order. You know, that whole conversation started with us on this group, starting going back to, it was either June or August 2019, with a very seminal story in Vice News about whether the president even had the power to cancel student loans by executive order or not. But really, I think it was our petition that we started in March 2020 that, when it really blew up and was at like 600,000 or 700,000 signatures, and Elizabeth Warren and Chuck Schumer embraced the concept, that's really when this whole thing started going. And so it sort of culminated last Wednesday with Biden's announcement. So we're thrilled that all that stuff happened. Don't get me wrong. And I guess maybe we should say some good things about the Democrats for that whole thing happening, because I don't think it would have happened with just us and just our petition. So Elizabeth Warren and Chuck Schumer deserve some credit for that. But, you know, the way the concept was dumbed down, and the way certainly what the announcement that we got from Biden on Wednesday, guys, it's, I hate to say it, but it looks almost exactly like, precisely like the trick that we were hoping not to see. So the trick is this: foist a fake loan cancellation on the citizens, keep the constitutionally enshrined threat of bankruptcy gone from the loans, and you can perpetuate this lending scam forever. And the trick has been played on us before, with the public service loan forgiveness program, with the income-based repayment program, with the pay-as-you-earn thing, with the revised pay-as-you-earn. We've seen this trick before, ladies and gentlemen. And while the top-line numbers on this Biden cancellation sound good to some people, not to most of our members, but certainly to 20 million people who carry $20,000 or less in student loans, all available evidence suggests strongly that not very many people at all are going to make it through the application process. You know, this announcement on Wednesday was vague. It was ambiguous. They said details to come in coming weeks, and those details are whatever they want them to be. However, I will say one thing, and this is an update from my last live stream. I was extraordinarily concerned. In fact, I was calling bullshit on the fact that they said up to $10,000, up to $20,000 loan cancellation for Pell Grant recipients. I'm very glad to report that since then, they have published an explainer where, if this is to be believed, now I don't know that this document has the force of law behind it. I kind of don't think it does. But they said that the up to means that your cancellation is limited by the size of your debt. In other words, if you have only $5,000 in loans, then obviously you're not going to get $10,000 in cancellation. They're not going to like cut you a check for $5,000. No. You are capped at $5,000, the amount of the loan. So at least according to the last thing the Department of Education said, the up to does not mean that it's going to be some sort of a sliding scale cancellation where people towards the upper income levels, for example, get far less than $10,000, whereas, you know, the lowest earning, no earning people actually get the full amount. So if they're to be believed, and I have to take them at their word to a certain extent, that bodes well. That does bode well. Because I was very leery that we were going to see this sliding scale nonsense. But guys, we're only talking about $10,000 here, or $20,000 for Pell Grant recipients. The average student loan borrower holds nearly $40,000 in student loan debt, and the worst hurt borrowers in the country by far are typically older people who have been wrecked by these loans for years and decades. And often, despite having repaid many times more than they originally borrowed, they owe in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So $10,000 to them is ridiculous. Like one of our members yesterday, he said, you may as well just add $10,000 onto mine. It's neither here nor there as far as I'm concerned. So, and that's really too bad. Again, we're glad to see the Democrats at least doing this at all. And certainly this will play politically very well for them. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But talk about not solving the problem. If you show up on the scene of an accident, you should help the worst hurt first. Am I right? That's just kind of common sense. And here we have the Biden administration doing something like the opposite of that. And don't get me wrong, everybody's getting screwed under this predatory lending scam. But if you have $10,000 or less in student loan debt, you're certainly not the worst hurt. You're the guy at the car crash that's like walking around like trying to help people more than likely. So anyways, if you get that analogy. So as I said, if you have any questions or comments, you're watching us on Twitter or Facebook, throw them out. And if I can see them, I will certainly respond to them. I have to tease you with something, guys. Big news. As I said, we are rocking right now. We are going on national television tomorrow at 1:42 p.m. I'm not going to tell you what the network is at this point, but it'll be a pretty big deal, I think. Maybe the best thing about this particular interview is that we will be going head to head live with one of the true bad guys, with one of the true swamp creatures. And again, I'm not going to tell you his name. You will have to tune in tomorrow to see it. It'll be happening 1:42 p.m. Eastern time on one of the major networks. And so get ready. It should be fun. Hopefully I can keep blood from shooting out of my eyes while on air, because it's so rare that we get an opportunity to go live head to head with the bad guys. Like, it almost never happens. Like, maybe 5 times has it ever happened in the past 18 years of us doing this. So I think I'll keep myself together. I think I'll make all of our points. See is how I live and breathe this nonsense. So I hope you're pleased, and I will have more to say about that very soon. I'm going to go straight to the comments. We've been blowing up in the media just in general, by the way, lately, as you might imagine. In the past week, we've been featured in Wisconsin and Indiana, in Los Angeles, on a number of podcasts. Our members have been interviewed all over the place, on and on and on. And that's very good, because if you haven't noticed, the bad guys are doing a full frontal assault on us everywhere. Just go to Google News and search for whatever, student loan cancellation. And oh my God, it's terrible, guys. It's terrible. And let me just say, if you've been reading the headlines, let me just say, we know what we're talking about on this group. We've been researching this for decades now, and we never make claims that we can't support strongly with nothing more than Department of Education data almost all the time. Sometimes Pew, sometimes Gallup data, but 90% of our research goes directly back to the Department of Education data, which is the gold standard. And it's not perfect, by the way, but whatever. Nobody can dispute what we say. And so let me just assure you, canceling student loans will not cause inflation. It will not. Canceling student loans does not generally benefit the wealthy. That's nonsense. And oh, by the way, I could go on and on. Student loans is not a younger person's problem primarily. In fact, it is far more, an older person's problem than a younger person's problem. Also, it is not a partisan problem. Most student loan borrowers, believe it or not, are either Republican or independent. It's true. And the most recent research that we have published is the fact that the government has not been losing money on the federal student loan program. The government has been making money and making a tremendous amount of it. And I hope that I can get into this tomorrow during the interview. We'll see. I'm guessing it's only going to be about a 12 or 14 minute thing. So we'll see how much we can pack in tomorrow, but stay tuned. So yeah, so it's the weekend. Looks like we're going to be just rocking it all weekend, and who knows what's to come. One thing I will say, guys, is this stuff does not happen in a vacuum. You know, it was our members that made some of those local stories happen, and we can and should be doing interviews with local media, local news organizations, radio, newspapers, television stations. We should be doing those interviews all day long, twice, 3 times a day. That's truly what we should be doing. That's never going to happen unless you get off your duff and you make that happen. Anybody can call their local news station and say, hey, you should really cover the student loan problem. There's this group here. They started the petition calling for the cancellation of all student loans, but they're really pushing also for the return bankruptcy protections of the loans. They have people in our area with very compelling stories to tell. They would love to tell you more about it. If you do that to like 10 different stations or whatever, 10 different newspapers, 10 different radio stations, there's a very good chance that at least one of them will wind up doing a story, and it'll be a good story. And depending on who we can find to interview with them, no matter what, it'll be a strong story. It will help tremendously. And so I would hope that you would see how critical this fight is right now. And just so you know, this loan cancellation thing, not $1 has been canceled yet by the Biden administration, if you're counting on that. Not $1 will be canceled until well into the new year, well after people are supposedly supposed to start repaying on their student loans. And so, yeah, guys, we cannot trust this thing. We just cannot. Hey, Ann Cooper's with us tonight. Ann Cooper says Wall Street bundles the student loans and trades them in the derivatives market. You know, Ann, that used to be true. That used to be a very huge thing. But I have to say that whole practice pretty much sunsetted in 2010 when Obama federalized the lending program. Most student loans today are owned directly by the federal government. There's still about $140 billion out there in the older legacy style FFELP loans that is traded on Wall Street, but that is far smaller of a thing today than it used to be. Nonetheless, the private banks are still making private student loans left and right, and those are bought and sold, bundled, all that stuff that you just said. There's still a huge interest that Wall Street has in this. And just look at any of the financial media, guys. It's all against us. It's all against us. In fact, of all the media, look at all the student loan stories. 90% of those are geared against us by people like the swamp creature that I'm going to be going up against tomorrow live on national TV. So 1:42 p.m. Eastern time. I will tell you the network tomorrow morning. So hey, Tiffany says thanks for the updates. Oh, good question. Michelle McHugh Capoon asks, do they pay taxes on that $10,000? Happily, the answer is no, Michelle. As a part of the COVID, what was it? The CARES Act, the HEROES Act, I can't remember. Any federal student loans that are canceled between now and 2025 are non-taxable income for federal income tax purposes. So that's a good thing. And that's actually, we deserve to give Elizabeth Warren deserves credit for that little bit. She, I believe, is the person who got that legislation in. Now, I'm not so sure about state taxes. Honestly, I think you may want to check your state tax code. I don't know how that works with state income tax. Doug Grossman says, won't do SHIT for me. Pardon Doug's French. They need to include zero interest for any payments that are made. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. You know, when LBJ rolled out the lending program in 1965, ladies and gentlemen, he declared that the loans would be free of interest, zero interest. Well, today, about $100 billion a year in interest clicks off on this student loan portfolio. So, Tiffany asks, Alan, do you think the Dems will keep pushing for total forgiveness? Honestly, Tiffany, I don't. I think this thing they just rolled out on Wednesday, that is the last cancellation that Joe Biden intends to do by executive order. You know, they also released a memo describing their authority to cancel loans, and they all chalked it up to the HEROES Act, which gives the president emergency powers because of COVID. They said nothing about the Higher Education Act, which actually does give the secretary full, broad power to waive, compromise, release student loans. But I think that's all that Biden intends on doing. I think this was a political ploy by the Democrats. I think it's going to work well for them, actually. And this is one of the little points that I wanted to make tonight. You know, I think last Wednesday, something like 20 million people, 15, 20 million people, they quit worrying about their student loans and they got a little warm, fuzzy feeling about Democrats last Wednesday. I think that happened because somewhere around 20 million people have $20,000 or less in student. Well, no. Around 20 million people have, I think, $30,000 or less in student loan debt. So if you had less than 30, you're pretty excited about this. If you have 40 or more, maybe not so much. If you have 80 or $100,000 or more, you're definitely not impressed. So I don't think the Dems will push on this again. I think they did what they were going to do. And as far as loan cancellation goes, this cycle is finished, guys. We got what we were going to get. And honestly, guys, I can't reiterate enough. The Department of Education has denied 99% of the people who have tried for all these other loan cancellation gimmicks in the past. 99% disqualification rate. The Department of Education does everything it can do to not cancel loans. If they can find a way to not cancel $10,000 or $20,000 for 99% of the people going forward, they will do it. That's just kind of in their DNA. And this goes way beyond parties, way beyond presidents, even way beyond secretaries of education. These are the unelected bureaucrats within the Department of Education. So whatever they might say, whatever they said on Wednesday, we will see. There are many different shoes that are going to drop on this between now, January 1st, now, a year from now. In fact, I kind of doubt that they'll even cancel their first tranche of loans before, like, I don't know, February, March of 2023, maybe even later. They're going to slow walk this. It's going to be anguish. But ladies and gentlemen, all this stuff only underscores the importance, and this is the most important thing I'm going to tell you. I don't think we're going to see meaningful student loan cancellation from Biden. Again, certainly not as a political measure like this thing that we just saw. We're not going to see cancellation from Biden unless and until we get the constitutional right of bankruptcy returned to these loans. It's the most important thing I say every night, and it is far more true tonight than it was on Tuesday night before Wednesday. We've got to get the threat of bankruptcy back, guys. Whether you would ever or never file is not important. We've got to have the leverage that the threat of bankruptcy provides back on our side. Quite frankly, few people should have to file, maybe even no one. Just the threat of bankruptcy is what is needed. to have any sort of leverage in this negotiation. Because right now, people in the Department of Education, they can do whatever they want. We can't run, we can't hide, no bankruptcy, no statutes of limitations. They can sit on our heads for the rest of our lives, and they will if they can. So bankruptcy changes that, and S2598 changes that. That's why it's so absolutely important. If you forget everything I say tonight, remember this. We have got to get S2598 passed. By the end of the year is our very last window. Everything dies at the end of the year. All the legislation, if you couldn't pass it by the end of the year, it's done. But as a political matter, and both the Democrats and the Republicans should be interested in doing this, quite frankly. Early voting begins in October. And so it would behoove not just the Democrats, but also the Republicans to pass S2598 before the elections. It's a bipartisan bill. It could be passed tomorrow. It's got all the votes that it needs to get sail through the Senate. We've got to fight for this bill. You have got to fight for this bill. If you weren't impressed with the stuff you heard on Wednesday, or even if you were, quite frankly, you need to be fighting for this bill. We can't count on that loan cancellation that we heard the other day. We cannot. If history is any guide, it will be pretty stunning if even 25% of the borrowers get any kind of loan cancellation through that thing that Biden announced. That's the way this thing goes, guys. Hear me now, believe me later, or actually, just take my word for it. We've been doing this for 18 years, guys. The disqualification rate cumulatively for income contingent repayment is 99.99, like 9%. If you want to fold in the public service thing into that, it still is like 99 point something percent disqualification rate. So just don't believe what the Department of Education says, guys. We've still got to fight. And it's more important now than it's ever been that we get that, that we get the leverage of bankruptcy back. We're in a perfect position, guys. But you need to fight. The one thing we've been missing all these years has been people owning this problem and not assuming that somebody else is going to pull your weight for you. And to everybody I see here tonight, Tiffany and Ann and Doug and many others, Brian, you guys are doing the hard work. I know. I see you out there. I see you doing stuff, and it helps tremendously. Everybody else, we cannot pull your weight for you. We cannot. You've got to fight for yourself. These are your loans. This is your problem. And your livelihood hangs in the balance of what happens between now and October 1st. That's 1 month, guys. Or certainly between now and the end of the year. But I think the next month will probably tell the tale of what happens here. Brian Landa says, most lawyers and doctors don't make the bank they assume we do. Yeah, true. Most lawyers I know, in other words, most people with law school degrees that I know, they don't even practice law. A lot of them are like writers and like, just you name it. That's certainly true. And I can't really speak to I don't know. I know a few doctors. They do pretty well, but they carry huge amounts of student loan debt as well. Hey, Britt Dahl says, just started reading your book today, finally. Oh, that's good, Britt. You know, I wrote that sucker in 2009, and it is more valid and legitimate, more relevant today than when I wrote it. So it's got legs, and it's called, oh, I've got it right here. How about that? I never shill my book, but I should. My publisher probably hates the fact that I don't, but there it is. You can get it. It's Beacon Press. Very hoity-toity publisher, very well respected publishing company. Very proud of that book. I probably should write another one because so much has happened since 2009. So if you know any editors out there, or I should say publishers, I've just been so lazy. You know, that first book fell into my lap. They asked me to write it. I didn't have to, you know, pitch it or anything like that. But I probably should write another book. Anyways, Brian Landa says grad school loan holders got not much, and about half of the 1.6 trillion is grad school debt. Insanity. Yeah, you know, everybody likes to particularly our opposition, they just love to bag on graduate students. And I think what they're playing on there is just popular belief that, hey, if you've got a master's degree, you've got it going on and you're making bank, and screw you, you're one of the elites. I think that's just nonsense. I think most school teachers these days kind of have to have like a master's degree, right? In most school districts, even to teach. Hey, Evelyn, Lara Ferris, how are you? Are we done fighting for loan forgiveness? This fight is absolutely not over, Evelyn. We will be calling for loan cancellation forever. But right now, the fight that matters is the fight for bankruptcy, Evelyn. The fight for S-2598 is all that matters. Biden did what he's going to do on loan cancellation. He has no intentions of canceling any more loans the whole time that he's president, if he can possibly avoid it. The one thing that will make him cancel loans is the threat of bankruptcy. If they return bankruptcy to the loans, it's kind of game over for the bad guys. It's kind of kryptonite for them. The jig is pretty much up when bankruptcy comes back, and the president is pretty much going to have to cancel loans because it's going to be either that or you, Joe Biden, will be the president that presided over the largest wave of bankruptcy filings in U.S. history. So think about that. S-2598, guys, it really all comes down to that. And again, if you forget everything that I say tonight, remember at least this. You can always help. The minimum that you can do and should do, and I would say must do if you're serious at all about getting this problem solved, is doing our daily actions. You can see the link there, bit.ly. You can go to our website, studentloanjustice.org, as well, and find our daily actions. Right now, we need to update them, but I think we haven't posted them since Monday. But the past 3 weeks worth of daily actions are just incredibly, incredibly important, particularly last Monday's action. So these actions take very little time, guys, usually like no more than a couple of minutes. Are getting these loans gone not worth a couple of minutes of your time? I swear to you, it is the most effective, efficient, and useful use of your time. I mean, I cannot think of any more useful or effective thing. You know, we think very hard about these daily actions. We target them. We are pretty strategic in how we roll them out. We target them very, hopefully a very intelligent and timely way. But, you know, you can always go back and do almost any of our daily actions going back for the past year or two. And the chances are that daily action will still be very useful. So, and I might also say, if you could please donate, guys. And I hate asking for money, but we have to have some donations, guys. We cannot do what we do and fight and win this battle on nothing. We can do it on very little. And if you looked at my apartment, you would understand that we are a very austere group. We could do a lot with a very little. We cannot do it on nothing. And if you appreciate how far we've come, especially if you appreciate the thing on Wednesday, would you not maybe kick in a couple of bucks so I don't have to be shilling for money all the time? I hate fundraising, guys. I'm no good at it. I suck at it. And it's always just a perennial pain in my ass to do this. We don't need much at all, like a few $1,000s a month to keep the lights on, literally. So please help with that so I can shut up about it. Yeah. Hey, Ann Cooper. Oh, wait, sorry. I already did this. Another very important point I wanted to get back to that, Evelyn mentions January is around the corner. Around 20 million people quit worrying about their student loans on Wednesday, guys. And those same 20 million people, most of those 20 million people, I'm going to go out on a limb and say somewhere between 12 and 15 of those 20 million people are not going to resume paying on their loans in January. Technically, they're supposed to, but just, I think I know human nature pretty well. They're going to be like, yep, I'm done. I'm done with these loans. They say I have to pay, but no, I'm getting that forgiveness thing. So I'm done. I will not pay. That actually kind of bodes well for us, guys, because even that notwithstanding, my best estimate is that only maybe 25% of the borrowers at most were going to resume paying on their loans on January 1st. Well, because of this announcement, I think that just went down by a full 5 to 10 percentage points. So I think that on January 1st, we're down close to maybe 15% of the borrowers actually resuming payments, but that will drop precipitously in the months to follow because people will remember that they were never able to pay their loans, and they'll be like, oh, I remember how hard it was to pay my loans. No, I'm not doing this. So that 15% could very well dwindle down to, who knows, single digits, 8%, 9%, somewhere in there. So that's a very interesting new dynamic that I feel pretty confident we can look forward to in the new year, which is a direct result of this Biden announcement on Wednesday. Democrats are pretty smart, though. I got to give the Democrats a lot of credit as political strategists. They did a lot to shore up their chances here in the midterms. Will it be enough to get them past the huge headwinds they were facing? I don't think it will be. I don't think it will be, guys. I really don't. I think particularly the older borrowers who now outnumber younger borrowers, believe it or not, I think a lot of the older borrowers are a little smarter than the average bear. And so I think a lot of people are going to read between the lines there and say, not so impressed that I'm going to get off my ass and rush out to vote for Democrats. That remains to be seen. We'll know. It certainly helped them. I don't think that. And maybe you have your own thoughts there. I know the Democrats were facing a very, very harsh headwind prior to Wednesday. Is this going to completely ameliorate all that? My gut says no. I think if the Democrats really wanted to regain the trust that they had that Biden and the Democrats betrayed us prior to that, let me reset. I think in order for the Democrats to regain our trust to the levels that it was prior to 2020 election, I think they're going to have to do more than that. I think at a minimum, they're going to have to return bankruptcy protections to the loans. I'm very thankful that certainly some of the higher balance borrowers out there, which is most of the people on our group, by the way, they see this for what it is. And they're like, oh shit, we've got to have bankruptcy back. So I think a lot of people in our group are now starting to understand the critical importance of getting bankruptcy back. And so, yeah, guys, this all comes down to bankruptcy. It always has, and it still does, even more so today than 3 days ago. Brian Landis says, we will have more info and mandatory onerous forms for the 43 million of you to fill out over the coming months. Yeah, that's pretty much accurate. That's a good translation of the mumbo jumbo we saw in the Biden announcement the other day. Britt asks, what are your thoughts on the supposed no interest accrual if you are paying your payments per the announcement? That's another thing that I almost don't even want to talk about. So as a part of the announcement, there was loan cancellation, but also there was a new wrinkle, a new IBR program that they are going to be rolling out. And, guys, all of the income-driven repayment plans are fake. They are nonsensical. Almost nobody will make it through. And so, quite frankly, Britt, I've gotten to the point after seeing 4 or 5 of these IDRs come and go, I don't even pay attention to them anymore because I know they're fake. I know the 99% disqualification rate for ICR. I know until recently, 99% disqualification rate for public service loan forgiveness. I can almost guarantee you that the disqualification rate from income-based repayment, IBR, is going to be in the high 90%. So I could care less about the terms of the brand new recycled, whatever you want to call it, the brand new flavor of income-driven repayment program that they want to roll out. All they're trying to do is kick the can down the roads by these nonsensical things. And I don't even pay attention to the terms because I just don't care, because I know those things are designed to fail, where they will find ways over 10, 15, 20 years, however long it is. I think it's 10 years in this case. They will find a way over 10 years to kick the vast majority of people out of those plans. That's how they've always rolled. That's how they always will roll. And by the way, all of these IDRs can be killed tomorrow at the whim of Congress. So I don't even worry about them. And I don't think that they even merit any discussion, because even talking about them and their terms gives them a credibility that they don't deserve. I hope that's clear. And you can read the terms for yourself. I'm not going to waste my time even talking about that. I frankly don't see this lending program even existing for another couple of years. Honestly, I don't. As I said, come January 1st, almost nobody will pay. The lending system is vanishing into a mist of illegitimacy, ladies and gentlemen. I know it's hard to hold those two thoughts in your head at the same time, but just look at the facts, guys. Look at the facts. I think come, say, May of 2023, I'll be stunned if, at this point, if, say, 12 or 15% of the people are paying. I think that's on the high side of what we can expect. So, at what point is there really no lending system left? When 0 people are paying, yeah, I think most people would agree the lending system has vanished when nobody's paying, right? I think that's true. But come on, if 5% of the people are paying, is that still vanished? Yeah, I'd say that's vanished. If 10% of the people are only paying, what are we even talking about, guys? Student loans are a national joke at this point, and the repayment come January will only bear that out. Anna has a question. Does the bankruptcy bill only apply to loans that are older than 10 years? Does that mean if the loans were consolidated less than 10 years ago, they wouldn't be covered? Great question, Ann. And I'm very happy to report, and we've been bird dogging this legislation very, very carefully. The bankruptcy bill, as it is written right now, applies to all student loan debt that is more than 10 years old, not loans, debt. So in other words, if you consolidate it, if you got your loan, if you took out all your loans 20 years ago and you consolidated 3 years ago, do you have to wait 7 years to file? And the answer is no. All debt will be covered. So if you consolidated 3 years ago, the debt is still more than 10 years old. So you can still get the same treatment in bankruptcy court that all other borrowers for all other type of loans get. And that's a not small thing. But we've got to fight, guys. None of this stuff matters until and unless we get the bill passed. And we've got this month. We've got 30 days. And we'll see, guys. I don't know. I mean, it's getting so close. You've got to fight for this thing like your student loans dependent on it, because they do. There's only so much that I can do, only so much that, Tiffany and Anne and other people, Britt, there's only so much that they can do. This comes down to you and whether you fight or not. It's pretty much just that simple. I'm scanning your comments here. There's a few that I just, Tiffany Klein says, I feel defeated. Tiffany, you shouldn't feel defeated at all. In fact, I'm more hopeful now than I have ever been. I had it on good word from the Senate that when Biden did what he was going to do with what he did on Wednesday, they were going to do what they're going to do with S-2598. So now is exactly the time not to feel defeated. Don't feel, and I know our opposition would love nothing more than for you to feel defeated, hopeless, discouraged. Our opposition wants you sitting around watching, waiting, and worrying, feeling terrible, and doing nothing, or maybe reading Forbes magazine or Yahoo Finance or something like that. That's what our opposition wants. And don't give them the pleasure. We've never been closer ever to finally getting these constitutional rights back. Never have we ever been closer. But this all starts with you guys. And it feels good to fight, by the way. If you feel bad, fight this battle. You'll feel better. Trust me, it's true. Ask anybody in our group who's been fighting. They will tell you it's cathartic and it helps. Hey, Britt Dahl donated. Thank you, Britt. I appreciate the donations. I hate shilling for money, guys. I hate to do it, but I wish I didn't have to. But anyways, and Cooper, the entire economy is melting down. So even less disposable income for anything other than food, shelter, and transportation. Very good point, Ann. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but the inflation that we've already seen is costing the average household $500 a month. If they canceled student loans entirely today, and in fact, this repayment pause 2.5 years ago, that return to borrowers, at least on paper, it was less than this. It was $400 a month in money that instead of paying on their student loans, they could spend on other things. So canceling student loans, number one, will not change that equation whatsoever. But even this repayment pause, where maybe when the repayment pause first kicked in and inflation wasn't doing what it's doing, maybe some people did have $400 a month to spend. And actually it's probably half that, because more than half of all borrowers weren't even paying anything, even before the pandemic. So the repayment pause had no effect on their spending. But my whole point in this is that the economy is getting even worse, and prices may very well continue to climb. So there is absolutely no way that canceling the loans or even extending the pause forever, there's no way that that's going to contribute to inflation. And let's get real here, guys. Student loan borrowers are feeling the pinch more than most people, certainly way more than those people who got PPP loans that don't need to be repaid, by the way. But yeah, we're in the great wide open here. Who knows what the economy is going to do? I'm seeing some very distressing numbers in likely home foreclosures and polling about people expecting to be evicted in the next 2 months. I don't know what to believe. I'm no expert on that. I'm certainly not an expert on housing, and I'm really not much of an expert about almost anything except for student loans, unfortunately. But who knows, guys? Who knows how bad this economy is going to get? I don't think it's going to get much better, but we'll see. But yeah, student loan borrowers are being wrecked by inflation. Let me just put the period on the sentence by saying that. Hey, Ann Cooper says, should we call our representatives too, or just the 2 senators? Well, right now the senators are most important, guys, but honestly, everything's important right now. Both the Senate and the House are very important. By the way, we're a fiercely nonpartisan group. We kind of hate both parties, quite frankly. But historically, the Republicans have tended to oppose the push for the return of bankruptcy protection to student loans. I'm very glad to report that yesterday, Matt Gaetz, who's love him or hate him, as I said, we're a fiercely nonpartisan group. We will not wade into the partisan nonsense that we see out there. Republican Matt Gaetz, kind of a MAGA guy from Florida, Matt Gaetz went out of his way on Twitter to call for the return of bankruptcy protections to student loans. That is a very, very, very good sign. We need more Republicans in Congress, both House and Senate, to be climbing onto that bandwagon. It's the right thing to do. It's the conservative thing to do by far. And it's the best way the Republicans have to, quite frankly, avoid snatching defeat from the jaws of victory this November. I don't know what kind of impact the thing the Democrats did on Wednesday will have, but I know it's going to help them. If I were the Republicans, I would be very worried right now. I would be very worried, and I would not be wagging my finger at the 42 million distressed student loan borrowers in the country. We vote. 42 million people, and I'm talking 42 million distressed student loan borrowers. We vote, and we don't take kindly to Republicans wagging, or any politicians wagging their finger at us. We are the largest untethered voting bloc in U.S. history. We are nearly enough people to elect a president outright. So don't forget that. Yeah, and I think I'll end it with this. I will end it with just to repeat what Ann Cooper is saying. Ann Cooper says, our founding fathers want us to have bankruptcy back. And how true that is. You know, I think the founding fathers are looking down on us and they're shaking their head and they're saying, how did our people get so weak? How did our people let themselves be conquered and enslaved and intimidated and cowed by this ridiculous lending scam that the federal government has foisted upon them? Why are they paying on these loans? Why are they not burning their loan papers and throwing the ashes into, Boston Harbor like we did, the Tea Party? Truly, guys, the founding fathers are on our side. 42 million distressed student loan borrowers are on our side. Hundreds of millions, or certainly tens of millions of people, well, many people who haven't even been to college yet are we're fighting for them. They should be on our side. They would be if they knew what we were all about. Spread the word about this group, please. This is where all this stuff, we are the eye of the hurricane, guys. We are the tip of the spear. I know it doesn't look like that, but yes, indeed we are. All the stuff we're seeing right now with bankruptcy, loan cancellation, that all started here on this group. You have no idea how important you are. How true that is. So anyways, check back tomorrow. Thank you, Michelle, for wishing me luck. Tomorrow morning, check back on our Facebook group or on our Twitter, and I'll try and give about a half an hour heads up on our national news appearance. So keep fighting, guys. Do our daily actions. Please donate. Let's make this happen, guys. Good luck. We're all in this together. Godspeed. God bless everyone.